Tahina Paopao. She hacked Caitlin Clark. Her arm is like being grabbed by Tahina Paopao, and she does take it off.
And then when the refs don't call the bear hug,
one of the worst missed calls I think I've ever seen in basketball.
This is another year and another case of WNBA referees not making the right calls when it comes to Caitlin Clark.
The WNBA is physical, and she just needs to get over it. Let's watch the play here.
To reset things.
As you can see, she dribbles over to the wing, pushes off a little bit, and hits that three. Now, if you slow things down and if you actually go frame by frame, you can see that Paopao had two hands on Caitlin. It wasn't just a one-hand check. She was kind of grabbing her with two hands.
The proof that Caitlin Clark was specifically targeted by Atlanta Dream players is now unavoidable, ranging from a full-on hip check to a double jersey grab. It's shocking what the referees overlooked in one play.
This is some of the worst refereeing I've ever seen to not call a defensive foul here. Like, this is not just a hand check. This is a double jersey grab.
WNBA referees that's making it so damn hard for them to make the right calls at the right moment.
And supporters are incensed, but the worst part is that rather than pointing out the true issue, the internet is blaming Caitlin.
She's going up against Paopao, and she does a step back three, she hits it, but the internet is going wild for this because they are complaining about her pushing off with her left arm.
If you think Caitlin Clark is deserving of respect,
Caitlin Clark effect seems to be crazier than year one.
I love watching her score and just everything about her.
Safety and an equitable game to show your love and support. Leave a 100% in the comments section right now. Then let's watch the video that has everyone talking.
Now watch this. Now this is it right here.
Let's discuss the moment that went viral and for all the right reasons. During a preseason game against the Atlanta Dream, Caitlin Clark was pitted against Tahina Paopao. What happened was not just another basketball play, it was an obvious instance of Clark being physically harassed on the court. The video shows it all clearly as Clark tries to drive past Paopao and is instantly confronted by two hands grabbing her jersey.
Paopao is on her. Paopao grabs her hip. You see here. So Caitlin's trying to blow by Tahina Paopao. Like, Tahina Paopao is not a good enough defender to play flat like this. Two hands on Caitlin Clark's jersey. Then she goes around the hip. Caitlin shoots from so far back. Oh my god.
Pow, this wasn't a subtle hand check. Rather, it was a textbook foul. A veteran move by Paopao to stop a drive she knew she couldn't defend. And instead of a whistle for the obvious defensive foul, the referees allowed it to play. Pow wasn't, even in a solid defensive stance. She was flat-footed, off balance, and completely caught. So what did she do? She grabbed Clark's hip, pulled her jersey, and used both arms to physically stop her from blowing past.
It's not an offensive foul, and if it's an offensive foul, the offensive foul comes way after the defensive foul. Even if it wasn't for the hand, I don't think that that's enough for push-off to call an offensive foul, especially when the defensive player is off balance.
Clark barely stretched her arm in an attempt to break free of the hold, yet referees called an offensive foul because of that little movement. Are you kidding me? Here's what makes it even more ridiculous.
This happens a lot. There's a lot of times that guards are working the defenders off of them, especially if a defender has a hand on their side, on their jersey, on their arm, anything. You are allowed to kind of swipe and get the defenders off of you.
The slow motion replay demonstrates that Clark had already passed Paopao prior to the small arm extension. Her legs had already cleared the defender and she had momentum. Paopao essentially hacked her to stop her from scoring a layup, but for some reason, Caitlin was awarded the violation.
Caitlin is past Tahina Paopao here. Tahina Paopao is stopping her with her arms. Her arms like this on the jersey, stopping her. There is an arm extension. Because she's in such bad defensive position, is already, look at her where her feet is before the contact. She's throwing herself out of the play anyway.
Now, let's be honest, every top guard in basketball uses some separation, but when Clark does it, it becomes an issue. Paopao's decision to throw herself out of the play made the contact appear worse than it was. It was drama, not defense, and this wasn't an isolated incident. During the same game, Clark was bumped up and down the court, grabbed, and held without receiving any calls.
Caitlin Clark's statue, in order for them to gain separation, they kind of stick their forearm out there because they're getting bear hugged. The other defensive player won't let them cut across to the lane.
It's difficult to view this clip and not think that there's more going on than a stern defense. The tape is unmistakable. The referees allowed it to happen, and now everyone is seeing what the supporters have been claiming for months. The internet response is where things get even more complicated. Caitlin Clark is being treated differently, and it's time we start start addressing this as bias. The internet went into full meltdown mode as soon as the Clark Pow Pow play film appeared on social media, but rather than concentrating on Tahina Pow Pow's blatant foul, guess who the haters blamed?
Caitlin Clark, her arm is like being grabbed by Tina Pow Pow and she does take it off.
She's trying to gain separation to shoot a three.
But I've never, like, this is some of the worst refereeing I've ever seen to not call a defensive foul here. This is a vet move by Pow Pow. I have to say, this is a vet move by Pow Pow.
Yes, Caitlin Clark. She always puts off that she needs to be called out since she wouldn't make a single shot if she didn't cheat. Are we watching the same game? Let's be clear, people were yelling in the comments because Caitlin Clark stretched her arm slightly to break free after being grabbed by the jersey hip check and prevented from driving cleanly to the basket. She is now the antagonist in the story.
She's going up against Pow Pow and she does a step back three, she hits it, but the internet is going wild for this because they are complaining about her pushing off with her left arm.
The most annoying thing is that the same people who said last season that Caitlin simply needed to toughen up and adjust to the WNBA's physicality are now the ones complaining that she is too aggressive. Remember last year when she was being thrown off her rhythm, hammered on drives, and knocked to the ground, and they said she needs to get stronger, she's not ready for the W. However, they changed the plot and cry foul the instant she discovers how to defend herself and make room, just like any excellent player.
It is a mad situation just all around when it comes to Caitlin Clark because it's very clear that she is way stronger.
Caitlin has always been an underrated athlete. She's the fastest player in the league to me with the ball in her hands. And she was the best guard finishing around the rim last year. She shot a bunch of it, and it's been the whole preseason where it looks to me like on her deepest shots, she is just getting them off like they're nothing, like they're routine. Because nobody else is shooting from this distance regularly, and she's doing it with a flick of the wrist. How easily it looks like she's shooting those threes and hitting those threes in the clip that she's doing it, you know, going to the rack, all these various things that show she's even stronger than she was a year ago. And you see it in the strong numbers. I mean, 13 points, 6 boards, 7 assists in 23 minutes of action.
In plain daylight, it's hypocritical when other players grab jerseys, throw elbows, and play tough defense. It's hailed as gritty, but when Caitlin even slightly extends her arm or shoulder, it becomes a scandal. Let's not act as though rules are the cause of this indignation. The topic here is narrative control. Simply put, Clark is the league's face at the moment. She attracts fans, ratings, and media attention, and that kind of attention breeds rivals. The fact is that if this same play had occurred to any other star, like Sabrina or Kelsey Plum, people would be discussing the missed foul and the need for defenders to stay ahead. But when it comes to Caitlin, the attention abruptly switches to how dirty she plays. It's not just unfair, it's intentional. And what's crazy is that even though Clark is the most hacked player on the court, she hardly ever gets called. In her last 2 games, she only had 1 foul, 1 was drawn, and 1 was bumped all over the court. This isn't about a single play though, rather it's about a pattern.
Caitlin Clark is the GOAT.
She signed my jersey. I'm so happy. I'm crying. I'm so happy. This is the best day ever.
They went the extra mile just to watch her play here.
This is great news for women's basketball, period.
The question now becomes what all of this means moving forward, not just for Caitlin Clark, but also for the Indiana Fever and even the WNBA as a whole, as it's not just about a missed foul or a bad call. It's about a growing trend, a targeting culture, and a league that is finding it difficult to handle its biggest star fairly and with respect. Let's start with Caitlin Clark, who is no longer just a talented rookie, but is now the most talked about player in women's basketball.
WNBA rumors suggest Caitlin Clark will be among the first stars making $1 million annually. The most notable of which is, y'all already know who, the needle mover, Caitlin Clark.
She's filling arenas, boosting TV ratings, and garnering widespread media attention, something the WNBA hasn't experienced in years. But fame comes with a cost, and Caitlin Clark's cost appears to be relentless physical play, intense scrutiny, and no protection. Despite the players swarming her and the referees ignoring her obvious contact, she maintained her composure during the Atlanta Dream game.
The WNBA referees are terrible. The one-sided calls against Caitlin are so obvious and disgusting. They're ruining the game. If the referees do not get this whole situation together with this Caitlin Clark thing, fans is finna stop watching this sport.
Despite the chaos, she didn't act out or retaliate. Instead, she let her game speak for her by making tough shots, such as that cold-blooded step-back 3. People don't give her enough credit for her mental toughness, but the scary thing is that if this kind of treatment persists, how long can one player bear the brunt of the league's criticism and physical abuse without becoming exhausted? The WNBA is asking Caitlin Clark to be its face.
That's nice.
And she was shooting the shit out of it.
Of course she was.
Right, so she was shooting the shit out of it. And
she's the face of the league.
Agreed.
She's the face of the league. Agreed.
Just have nothing but great things to say about who she is as a person. She's so welcoming and so warm as an individual that she can have a conversation with anybody. She's cut from the same cloth as me in that regard. You know what? Us Midwesterners, we tend to just, accept everybody with open arms. She was so kind to my family and everyone in the suite when she came to KC. So huge fans of Caitlin Clark.
It is a mad situation just all around when it comes to Caitlin Clark, because it's very clear that she is way stronger.
However, denying her the same respect, protection, and whistle that other celebrities receive is unsustainable. What does this leave the Indiana Fever? A young team searching for cohesion and a sense of identity. Clark is the engine, but even engines can malfunction if they are overused and not properly safeguarded. It is 14.5 points, as demonstrated by Caitlin's preseason stats. Those numbers could be even higher if the referees actually called the game fairly. Every time Clark has to fight through two defenders grabbing her 94 feet from the basket, it slows the offense, takes a toll, and impairs her ability to create for others. 6 assists, 6 rebounds, shooting over 52% from the field, and 50% from 3 is not just improvement, that's elite efficiency. This is about the team's rhythm and confidence as a whole, not just her individual numbers. Consider the message this conveys to young players watching at home. Caitlin Clark entered this field as a multi-generational artist with a sizable fan base.
She is highly likable. I think that lends itself to her popularity as she comes across as somebody that's really just respectful, likable. There's other players out there that just don't come across that way.
But if she's getting bullied and blamed for just trying to play her game, what does that say to the next wave of stars that if you shine too bright, the league won't back you up? The WNBA needs to make a choice. Either they step up and start protecting the players who are drawing fans to the game, or they risk pushing away the very people who are elevating the sport, because right now it feels like Caitlin Clark is being punished for being too good, too popular, and too different from the mold. And let's not ignore the elephant in the room. Race and bias do play a role in how Clark is treated. That's a conversation people don't want to have, but we need to. The double standards are glaring. When black players play physical, they're seen as strong and tough. When Clark responds with the same physicality, she's called dirty or dramatic. The league needs to confront this head on, not sweep it under the rug. But if there's one thing we've learned, it's that Caitlin Clark is built for the storm. A fan took this like iPhone footage of the Indiana Fever doing a workout after that game against the Atlanta Dream. And it was Caitlin, it was Banna Turner, Jaylen Brown, and Natasha Howard were exercising in the corridor, performing lightlifting exercises as you can see above. Sophie Cunningham emerges from the locker room wearing a boot, but she's not giving up. She's learning, she's still shining, and she's doing it with class and cold-blooded clutch shooting, even while taking hits from opponents, the media, and the referees. So yes, the video shows that she was targeted and she had to back off because she knew she had no space here. However, it also shows something more significant. She's still standing, still delivering, and still altering the game. In 2024, Caitlin Clark averaged 16.5 points per game, 4 assists, 5.5 rebounds, and shot 37% from the field and 31.88% from 3. However, if you look at her preseason in 2025, she only played 2 games, one of which was against that Brazilian national team, and she averaged 14.5 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds, and shot 52.5% from the field and 50% from 3-point range. Despite all of this, Caitlin Clark isn't just being defended, she's being targeted, but that's what makes her great. If you think Caitlin deserves the same respect, fair treatment, and protection as any other player in this league, please leave a 100% positive comment right now to show your support. Let's fill the comment section to ensure that her voice and her game are heard, and if you're new here, hit the subscribe button because we're being honest, dissecting the facts, and defending the players who make this game unique. I'll see you in the next